All right, welcome, Dennis. We're sitting down today as I've went through a lot of the other ones. Anybody's been kind of watching and tracking these. We've gone through kind of the top 100, Arista engineers that went through our L6 and L7 kind of a gauntlet that we threw down where they had to do them both back to back. You're the first non-Arista one that I'm covering. You a little special relationship with us. You've you not only went through it and got it, and you've earned it, and your number will be up on the screen right now so everybody can see it. You're one of the very early ones that did it, but you were also you've been hand to hand with me for what have we been doing now? 3 years that we've been
Yeah, probably.
developing and talking about this and reworking it. So you've been the one of the main architects behind building out the actual lab and taking the crap that's in my head and my vision and where I wanted to go and figure out how to put that in a way that that would stand up against all the other programs out in the world. So first off, just congratulations and thanks for all the work you've done. It's been such a fun process.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I think this journey hasn't been over yet. Right? There's a lot more to do because we never stop. We keep doing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk a little bit for everybody that doesn't know you. I think I can give you the title of the guy that I know that has the most expert certifications. Um, give everybody a little bit of rundown of what you've accomplished. Kind of when did you do that? Give me your career, your resume in 5 minutes or so.
Okay. Yeah. So I won't be humble. But that wasn't always the case. So United States kind of spoiled me because the first time I um, stepped my feet to the US soil, it was probably around 8 years ago, and it was real, real humble. And when I was working for a company, they told me like, Dennis, like you're so humble, like you need to kind of like advertise yourself. You need to sell yourself. Like this is the land of the capitalism, right? You need to like keep selling yourself. Like that will pay off. And I was like, oh, okay. I'll start doing that. If it helps, then I'll keep doing it. Um, but yeah, before that, I was born in Russia. I know that it is not a very famous country to like at this point of time, but fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know. I have left it like before like all this stuff began. So we're not gonna talk the politics. Um, but yes, I um, have started my career about 15 years ago, maybe even more than that. Um, and even before that, I started the career, I've been really close with the computers. And I've been a professional computer gamer. So I've been paid to play the games. Like this is like a dream job. And it was a lot of fun. And believe it or not, but this was one of the best things in my life. Like, I know that my mom wasn't really appreciating, and my family wasn't really appreciating that. I've been playing computer games like a lot, 24/7. I've been literally playing 20 hours a day. So especially if there is like a big competition, so you start preparing in advance because you know that this thing happens in advance, like 3 months in advance, and then you just lock down yourself and you just start playing games,
And
or
what
let's
games
say
were
like
these? What are some of the games
um
that people might know?
so I played so those are usually the multiplayer online games. One of them was StarCraft. um and so most of them on Blizzard, the one that you probably know, that Quake. That's like a really old school game, so that like a shooter. So I played the shooter, the Quake, then there was StarCraft, Warcraft. Those, I think, the mainly three ones that I play competitively, which means that I've been paid paid to do that. It was a lot of fun. Trust me, like I've traveled, yeah, like I've traveled a lot of cities in Russia, and it was the most amazing experience because you're just going to a city and you don't know no one, but everyone knows you, and you have never seen those guys, but you've been playing with them for a long time, and like finally meeting them like face to face, and they're like treating you as your own brother. It was amazing. Um, and what it taught me is um, like the muscle memory skills, and because most of those games are all about the reaction and the APM and also the analytics. So first thing is the muscle memory, because I can type like in Russian or English without even looking at the keyboard at a speed of like 200 um, actions per minute. And when I was younger, it was like 400 actions per minute. So just imagine that you're, and this is it was happening during the whole like play, for example, and the play is I would say like 30 minutes in average. So in average, your action per minute is 400. So it means that you're clicking the mouse button and then pressing the keyboard at a pace of 5 actions per second for
That's
30
insane.
minutes.
That's insane.
And then imagine you're doing this for 20 hours a day for 3 months.
Dude, you're literally like a human computer.
Yeah, so like yeah, and it's just it was like it's just a lot of it muscle memory, and then you have to think, you have to actually do something. Like if you'll try to do that like yourself by just trying to click the mouse button, like you won't be able to get to the space. And then imagine that you need to actually produce something that will get you. So yes, it's it was a lot of fun. It taught me a lot. And then when I started my career as a sysadmin, I was super fast. Like,
Right,
and
right.
everyone was, and it was due to I didn't realize that I was, it was, for me, it was something natural. You're just doing it because like, it's okay. I mean, that's how you do things. But from the outside, like how do you call it? From someone looking at you is like he's some kind of magician.
Right,
And I was
right.
like, I'm not doing anything special. It's all because it's all because of computer games. Like, believe it or not. And when people like tell me like, oh, my son is playing computer games and he's ruining his life, I'm like, I have another opinion on that.
Right, right. It made my life great.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Oh, it's really, really interesting when you talk about it. Like I've never been a big gamer. I mean, I can remember getting I aged myself a little bit, Ataris and Commodores back when I was a kid, and I still didn't really play with those. I was always more of an outside kind of, kid. But you talk about muscle memory, and and I did a lot of stuff in the military, kind of special operations arena. Since I've been out, I love to skydive. I love to do different things like this, and I love shooting weapons and target practice and things like this. Like all those things in common are the muscle memory. It's when you're in a moment where you need to react, so you're cognitively thinking, but you don't have time to stop to think. You
Yep.
need to have reactive thinking. That those muscle memories are so important. And it is amazing. I have people say to have the same kind of comments towards me, like, oh man, I can't believe you're up there. How do you? Well, it wasn't magic. I flew in a tunnel for hours, literally hundreds of hours, flying
Yep.
around with wind blowing on me, so I could figure out what my body felt like when I did different things to it in the wind. And now when you're watching a 30-second video of me doing something, yeah, it looks like I'm doing all these really cool things, but at the moment, I'm not thinking about any of that. I see you're
Yes.
over there. I want to fly to you. I flip this around and here I come. I don't, and that was the hardest thing for me to learn, is because I am a very like a logical cognitive type thinker on most things. And that made it really hard for me to learn like skydiving, because it was really you got to feel it type thing. And I'm like, well, I need to understand it before I can feel it. And, I started jumping with my son, and it was kind of interesting. He's the opposite. He felt it first and then went back to learn to understand why it was happening. And it's just kind of different watching us come through that. But I mean, dude, yeah, I I've had a son do it. I just watched this. Have you watched the new movie? I think it's a Gran Turismo or whatever it is. Um,
No, it's in my list. It's in my list, but I haven't. That's the recent one, right?
yeah,
Gran
it's
Turismo.
it's brand new, and it's literally that story where the kid been playing a game. They designed a game to be so realistic to the actual tracks in the cars,
Mm.
and the kid got so good at playing it that the one guy has the dream that he could take gamers, virtual simulators, take
Mm-hmm.
those guys so they went out and
To
looked
the
at
real
the
track.
top scorers, took them out to the real track,
Yep.
and this guy is still driving today. Like
Yep.
he's got a major, kind of F1 type career or whatever class he's in, but all started as video games. So yeah, I've looked at it. I think it's very interesting cognitive skills that people can get out of doing some of those today.
And that kind of experience that taught me that if you want to be good, you just work your ass off. Again, 20. That's why I usually like I have this thing in my LinkedIn profile. Like I have a 25 years individual with 35 years of experience.
Right.
Uh, that's all because you just if you take a look at the regular person, like the median, the people work 8 hours a day, maybe less, the median. But you work 20, and that's how you can get your 30 years within 2, 3, 5 years. Work work days and the weekends. Yes, you'll sacrifice something at the very beginning, but if you're young, then you probably don't have any family. It's better than going to the nightclubs or just doing something, some other weird stuff. And yeah, it's all about practice, and that's how I started my career. Um, I I have so it all started because of the computer games, right? And because I grew up in the Siberia and there wasn't really good internet, so we've been playing through the DSL, the modem, like the synchronous stuff. And I've been always wondering like why those guys where I'm playing against, like they're better, like they're faster, but I know that I'm fast. Like I'm playing with them like on LAN, like when we're just like have two computers attached to a switch, like I'm beating them. But when we're playing over the internet, it doesn't happen. Like they beat me. I was like, what the hell? Like there's some kind of magic. And then I started kind of going through um, the internet and reading, and then I found out that I see ping. It was ping at the very beginning. Like okay, like what are those numbers? The lower the better. Like okay, like how I can make those numbers lower? Okay, you have the DSL. You need to switch to something like fiber or something else. Okay, how do I do that? And then how I like is there a better way optimize it? Okay, like have the had a wireless mouse, right? So this at latency. So I switched it to the wire, and so you just work your way through this, and then at some point of time, I was just so interested in networking already. I was like, okay, I took a job, um, not because of that, but because I had to pay my bills, and life happened. So like the computer games were fun, but uh, at some point in time, I just needed to started paying my like the bills myself, and the computer games were not enough to pay all the bills. So I just took the job. It was the crappiest ever, but it allowed me to survive, and I found my way through like like pretty easy. That's where I saw the Cisco switch. So I was working for a government company, and there was like a massive um, network upgrade, right? So they've been building the network nationally. The way that it works in Russia, at least it's been that way like 15 years ago. Had a project. They've been just um, architecting it from basically in Moscow, right? And then they spread like they've architected everything. They purchased all the equipment and they sent it to the this like suburbs and to the city where I grew up. And one guy, I remember, he came from Moscow for 2 days or so to set everything up. It was easy, right? Plug in the switch, configure the VLANs. For me, that was magic. back then. But then we started talking, and then it was I told him like, hey, like how much do you make? He's like, probably like $2,000. No, like at that moment it was because it was a different. It was like $5,000, I think, and I was making probably $200 or $300. I was like, oh, why? He's like, oh yeah, no, Cisco, the stuff, just configure it, and you'll be rich. I was like, oh, Cisco, okay. Like, is there anything else that I need? He's like, oh yeah, like you just need to pass, a couple of those certifications. Like certifications? And I'm like, okay, I'll go and check it out. So I started googling, and then I discovered the Cisco switches and everything, and the certifications. The problem for me back then was I didn't know English, like zero, like nothing. I knew some stuff from the computer games, right? Because I was playing those computer games like the Heroes of Meta Magic and the other stuff. So I kind of knew some of those fancy words like dragons, fairies, and I could read a little bit, but it didn't help me.
Not so much
It,
corporate.
it wouldn't help me to get my CCNA. That's for
Right,
sure.
right.
So I started reading like the documentation. I've downloaded the book. It was in Russian, but it was like really outdated because first you get your Cisco press published, then it takes some time for someone to translate it, then to publish it, then you need to some like download or buy that stuff somewhere. Like the lag is like
Right,
2 to 3 years. So by the time you're getting it on in Russian, it was outdated already. So it's like, okay, time to learn English. Like, how did I do that? And that was a really funny story how I got there. And I tried to take several classes, didn't work. Like it wasn't enough for me because the way they've been teaching, like it was in suburbs, in Siberia. Like there's literally like no one speaking English. There was one place though, the university. There was a university, Tumen State University, and there was a faculty of foreign languages. That was the only place to kind of get in and um, learn the foreign language. In my case, it was English, but it wasn't really easy to get there. Like
right,
it's not the same kind of system. It's like imagine that, hey, I want to get to the MIT.
right. You're not just going to
You
walk in the
cannot
door.
you cannot
Right.
just walk in and it's like, hey, like
Right.
I want to be studying here. So yeah, I that was like a really long story that I had to basically get myself through some ex-KGB agent, and then he just got me into some other connections with some other guy, like really cool dudes. Like nothing against them, like they're really good people. Like they helped me. Like I'm grateful that I met them. Right? They um, did some maybe shady stuff, but they helped me. They didn't ask me for anything.
Right.
I'll
Right.
be grateful forever that like what they did for me, right? And they didn't ask anything in advance.
So that got
I
you
don't
into the
know.
school to start learning the English then.
Yes. So they got me.
Mm.
So I and it's the university, so it's 5 years, 5 years kind of course, right? So till the graduation, but I didn't get there because my goal number one was to get English. So
Right.
so and as you imagine that when you're studying in university, you have the other classes.
Right.
I
Right.
wasn't doing any of those. I was doing like zero. The only thing that I was doing English. Like they were really pissed at me. Like a lot of the guys, a lot of the teachers, because I was like, "You're this most stupid person in the world because you're not attending this class or this class." But it was my point. I was just doing English, and that's it. So I took 2 semesters, right? When like
Right. Right.
6 months, right? And then I quit. So I got what I wanted. So I did that 5 years. Basically, I packed them, jammed them in a single year.
Right.
I was I took it, and then I started. I went back and started my CCNA. And
When was this? Give me a timestamp on that. When was that?
uh, let me check. So for that, I need to go and check when I got my CCNA. Were all my certifications? Probably better look at LinkedIn. Like I don't remember where all my certs are. But it was probably, hold on, 2009 maybe.
Okay.
2009.
So you come
Yes,
in
probably
to
2000, 2008, 2009, 2000.
so
Yeah,
you coming
15 years ago.
around 2008, 2009. You learn enough English to get yourself through CCNA,
Yep.
and so did you pass it the first time?
Yes.
Okay. And then what did that do? Did that open up a door to get the first job with Cisco in Cisco Technologies? In other words,
So yeah, it did get me a job, and I was paying like everything for myself, right? And it was like an enormous amount of money because back then the Cisco cert probably cost um, $200-300 per attempt, and my salary was as much
right,
as
right, yep,
so. Um, and by the way, when I was studying in the university, I was also working because I had to pay my bills. So um, I was studying basically from 8 to 4 p.m. and then from 4 p.m. through probably midnight, I was just working.
you're right though. I
Uh,
did a very similar thing, and it's I went in the military, so I did my military time. I was getting out, didn't really have a job that I could leverage what I'd been doing for 6 years in the Air Force. I knew that
mm,
job. I was at the top of that job. I was at the top of that stack. I rose up, did really well, but now I'm wanting to get out, and I'm like, I can't. My job was very unique. I mean, I literally
can't really apply it, right? Because you were
right.
like,
I was a Ford air controller to at the very root of things. So I'd go in and tell the airplane where to drop a bomb. There's not a whole lot I could do in New York City
yep.
with that. It's not like a lot of transferable skills. And so I got out and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I like to travel. I like being by myself. I had done computer stuff a lot in the military, but it was mostly as a punishment, if I'm honest, because as a lower guy gets the worst job type thing, rank has its privileges type idea. And coming in is, that was when the military was really first starting to embrace using technology and just like their normal day-to-day stuff. I'm not talking about like fighting a war or doing all that. I'm like, I can remember when the unit had one email address. And I know that because I was the one of the lower guys, so I had to check it. So I had to write, get on with the script and get the modem to click off and go do all this stuff just to check the email, just to find out that we had like three messages, because you weren't emailing people, you were emailing the whole unit. It was very early on then, but so I played with some of that stuff, and when I went to get out, and I was like, it wasn't even a thought that I was going to do it, because it was always a punishment to me. But when I got out, and my dad had been he'd been Navy SEAL and special operations, when he was in, and had spent 30 years afterwards, and had a professional career in like the restaurant business and things like this. And then he had to do a career change, and he got into IT. So at the time when I was getting out, he was teaching Microsoft courses, and he was like, "You should get into this stuff, man. It's really good money." Um, this was late 90s, so certifications were just starting to explode. Getting the MCSE was like a huge freaking thing then. And he was like, I could get you up here and do this. And I was like, dude, there's no way I want to do that for a living. There's no way. I want to sit at a computer all day. And he was like, yeah, but seriously, you should go check the salaries. And same kind of thing for me. I was coming out of the military making like $25,000, a year. And then
Which was
the
probably
starting job,
pretty good, right?
it was good. I mean, the military provides a lot of stuff for you. So, technically I'm probably making more because they give you the food and the housing and all this stuff. But as far as getting a paycheck and what that looked like, it wasn't that big. And then I go out here and look, and like starting job is $80,000-$90,000. I'm like, oh man, maybe I can do this stuff for a living. Like, how hard can it be? I mean, I've learned how to do. I did a lot of radio equipment and RF and stuff like this because that was our job. I mean, I could be out in the middle of the bushes with a backpack on, and I could call my wife at the time back in the United States, and I was in Germany somewhere in the woods, just using radios, HF radios and things like this. And so, I mean, I was technical in a lot of ways, but just never thought of it like that. And then I got out, and I mean, honestly, I did the same thing. I remember the Microsoft exams were like $150, $175 a pop then. And I was on unemployment because I hadn't even got a job yet. And oh man, I would study my ass off for hours and hours. I'd read the real book. I'd read the back then they were exam cram books. I remember they were red, they kind of summarized the course. I'd read those. I'd read any cheat sheet, any blog, anything I could find. I was reading everything. I was spending so much time, and you know what? I passed them all first time, Dennis. Same thing. I'm with you, dude. You can cram a lot of years of experience if you do the time and you do the work, for sure.
And this is the key thing I think that we have in common is the motivation.
Yes.
Because without motivation, like I've been like so motivated because I've heard the salaries like, ooh, crap, like I'd better do that, and because I don't want to be on that $200 salary my whole life. No. It better like you just do some math. Okay, I'll be studying for 10 months for that exam, and if I'm gonna get that 2,000-3,000, 5,000 type of job, and it's gonna pay off instantaneously.
Yeah, first time I ran into a CCIE, and it was like a $250,000, that was early 2000s. And I was like, holy crap. Like you were making money, dude. This is what I got to do. How do I get to that level? And then I think that motivation combined with, I got to meet a lot of really, really cool people early in my career. I remember getting BGP and being like, I'm comfortable with BGP. I think I got it now. And I would go meet a guy. He's still out there today. I still respect the shit out of it, but he was out of Kansas. And I would literally, if I wasn't teaching, because I did a lot of teaching early on, and if I wasn't teaching, I would actually pay for a ticket to fly to Kansas to sit in his class. And every time, Dennis, I would leave and go, shh, I still don't know BGP.
Yep.
Like, this guy knows so much. How do I learn all that? How do I get in? I mean, he was like number 3 on MCI's list back in the day. Like, there wasn't much more they could do after him.
What is MCI list?
MCI was like Verizon's, AT&T of the world, when they owned the majority of the telco world, back in early 2000s. And so basically, when they called him, there was 2 other people they could call, and then they were screwed. He's at that level. This is the internet at its prime. Big BGP guy. That's all he knew. I don't think the guy knew a VLAN if you try to explain it to him.
But the BGP, right?
But BGP was a god.
The bits and bytes.
And I met a lot of people like that over my career where I'm like, the motivation turned from money to, God, I want to have that kind of impact. Yep. Yeah, this guy knows so much. What a great thing to be at the top of your career like that. And I've got to meet a lot of people like that. So your motivation is key. So how long did it take you? Go ahead and let everybody kind of know so from that starting point in 2009, what credentials do you have today? What do you have today?
So,
go ahead and list it off.
Like, I don't know, like if it's like some of them are active, some of them are inactive because I don't track them anymore because there's so many of them. But I did like all the GNCAEs, like cloud security, whatever. Like, I don't even remember like the acronyms anymore. But all the Juniper experts, all the Cisco experts.
How many is that total CCIE now?
7.
7. Okay.
And CCD, I'm not the highest. My boss has 8.
Okay.
So I'm not the highest, but if you will sum them up, the expert levels, yeah. So the CCD, I did the Huawei, so it's not really popular here. But back then it was really popular in Russia, and I can tell you the story how I did it. It was pretty hilarious. But yeah, I'll get there. then a couple of VMware ones. No, not the expert level, the professional ones. Red Hat. I did Red Hat Certified Architect. I was also an examiner and instructor. And then some of the cloud, Azure, AWS. I think it's around 60 of them. But some of the miners, some of them are from the networking industry. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. Yeah, and
And
it all started from computer games. So if you're
and I will
curious
say
about,
this because I got to give you a plug is that I've met a lot of people that have multiples. No, I know a lot of people that have multiples. Um, I'm not necessarily a big fan of people that have 4 or 5. At least in my
sure.
let me finish this. This is for you. This is not against you. But because in my experience, what I find is that you find a lot of the people that have 3, 4, 5. They're not specialized in any of them. They've gotten to the point where they know a little bit about everything, but I hire them for a data center architect. They know some data center, but they don't necessarily know it all together. And so this is the way that this was my experience and how I looked at people with a lot. So and I don't remember how I don't know if I just reached out to you, if I had known you from somebody else. I don't remember. But when I reached out, I was like, holy crap, this dude has got every expert out there. Like the acronyms behind your name are impressive. And I remember telling some of the guys here, and I'm like, well, this is exactly who I want to have on our team, as we're going in to build this, because I don't want our expert program at Arista to be a Me Too offering. I don't want it to be like, yep, we copied this, we copied that. Because to me, when I look at it, Cisco did a brilliant job way back in the day of creating the original one. Most everybody else has copied it since then. Like Juniper's is pretty much just it's just a CCIE just from Juniper. I've heard Huawei's the same, but actually a little bit harder. I've heard, some of the VMware, some of the other ones, it's very similar. But when I was looking at this, I was like, I don't want to be the same as everybody else. I want to do something different here. And man, I got to tell you, you have lived up to my initial first impression of you, which is, okay, I'm not going to go with what I normally know about people that have 4 or 5. You might be one of the smartest dudes I've ever met, Dennis. Like you just the way that you learn things and how you process them, blown me away all along through this process. And I think it's been great because that's given us a really good inside person to have involved in this. You went through all these exams. The
Uh,
torture that people go through, the trickery, all the other crap that's there that kind of distracts away from. Just think about that. You're going through this process. You go enroll in the university just to learn English, just so you can try to take more current technology because they don't offer it in your native language.
yep.
And then you finally get to the point you got to study it. And now you got to go battle stuff that doesn't even make sense in English. It's stupid trickery. It's one-off things. It's stuff that never happens in the industry ever. And yet you got to master it to get through the exam. And that was really important to me to have that kind of perspective to make sure that what we did was not that way. It is only offered in English right now on the Arista side, but that's just because we just getting to start it. We will have it in every language, just like we let everybody test from their own house. You don't have to fly to a certain area to do it. We will put this out in every language too. We just want to make sure we get it out to the point where I've got proctors that can understand it in those languages and all those kind of things. But as soon as we can, absolutely. I think that's ridiculous for 2023 that a major global vendor has a program and they brag about only offering it in English. Like
It,
what's the point of that?
yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? It's always a double-edged. Like there are pros and cons. Of course, better if you have it in multiple languages, and in a single one, it may motivate a person like me, who back then to go and study English, which a good thing. It better know the language because it's a really universal language where like all the people are speaking, and most of the articles and most of the recent and break through text are written on. So
Right.
no way would you will have to learn English. But
Right.
yes. like as you said, that like as a global company, eventually you'll need to have it in multiple languages because there is not everyone is like Dennis. Right?
Right. And you know what? I've said the same thing, dude. Not everyone is like Terry either, thank God. But, um, I mean, I think it is, I think it's been really great to have you kind of with those perspectives and seeing a lot of different programs. And, you stay current in them. I'm thinking you just did one not that long ago, right? You just knocked off another one that you're doing.
Yeah. I just recently did the Cisco DevNet.
Yep.
Yeah, it was painful. I can tell you, it was a lot of pain it was a lot of pain for me, and I know people who are still. I mean, like they're still um, trying to make it, and they're really smart. So
Right.
they have failed like 5, 6 times.
Yeah, and at what point does that? And listen, we do the same thing here, and this is what I tell people about our program is don't be misled. We let you. It's an open book. We let you bring the resources with you. We let you do it from your house. It's a Zoom call. We're gonna have the camera on you, but we don't care. Well, all we're checking for is if there's another human body in there trying to do your exam for you. You need to take a bathroom break. Go take a bathroom break. I mean, if you can really run down the hall in your house and figure something out behind the wall, and I can't see you that quick, and you're going to pass, then congratulations, dude. That's incredible. Like, I don't know what you have in your bathroom. It's different from mine, but um, those things. It's just there's no point of like torturing somebody while they're going through this. And the approach we took, and the reason that we're doing that is it's just not good practice. I come from a world where you had to learn to train like you fight, because when you go to fight, you need to fight like you train because of what we were talking about with the muscle memory. You need to train as if you're in war, because when you're in war, you don't have time to think. Right. So why not organize the program this way? I mean, at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? We're trying to build people that can go work for a Fortune 50 company, help them come up with a data center strategy or something like that that's going to change how that company does their business for the next 5 years. Has to architect all those things out, figure all those buttons out, figure out all the commands and choices and protocols and all that. And then, you're probably going to supervise the change control as those things are rolled out and implemented. So you need to be able to look at things and troubleshoot and know symptoms of things and stuff like this. If that's the goal of the certification, that's what I'm saying that you're qualified to do after you pass, then why not test you in that same environment? I wouldn't ask you to fly to another country, stay in a strange hotel, eat weird food, get up early in the morning, walk into a facility, get treated by somebody that's just like they're out to get you. You
Have no
know,
access to, have no access to the internet.
yeah, have nothing. You don't get your laptop that you're comfortable for, that you have your own shortcuts and bookmarks on. You can't bring any material. You got to show up with a pencil and a smile on your face, and you're supposed to have memorized it all. If you did those things for me, and I was working at a Fortune 50 company, and I have, and I've been at the VP level in many of those companies and architect groups, I'd fire somebody for that, Dennis.
Yep.
Because I'm
I
like,
mean,
we got
that's
we got too much writing on this for you just to show up with your memory. Like that's crazy. Why we do that in exams? I don't understand it. Why we still do that in this day and age?
it's legacy. It's legacy.
Yep, I,
That's
I do believe so. I agree with you. I think this is the difference between us and say Cisco's program. I think Cisco's program was one of the best things that ever happened to this career field, the industry, 20, 30 years ago. Whether or not it's still the best thing for the industry 20 years from now, this is where I think they got to adapt.
I mean,
And I don't think they are as fast as they should.
they still have really good fundamentals. Right?
Yep.
So if you're just starting your career, Cisco is a really good way to go because they have the most like a polished way to present the materials, like give you the fundamentals.
Right.
Like this is you're going through the like kindergarten, the elementaries, you're going through your like school years, like you'd better take them if you don't have this extraordinary um, type of like character mentality, however you want to call it, then you'd better take it.
Right.
And then when you're graduated, the life begins, right? Because like the world doesn't really ends with Cisco. it just begins. They help you to begin the journey. But
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think that's really fair. They've done a really good job of having their program go wide. I know we looked at that with the rest of our courses too, because how are we going to do? Were we going to do the Arista CCNA and the Arista CCNP, and were we going to do the same thing, kind of like the JNCIA and the JNCIP? Were we just going to copy the same formula? And from my point of view, it was time to change and look at it a little different because, listen, when they came out, they had a huge task at hand. No, but there was not even a such thing as a LAN engineer early on. You know what I mean? When you looked at most of the guys that got their original CCIEs, the world they were coming from was IBM and a lot of that stuff. Like this was college career based, and that's how they learned to be a mainframe guy or whatever. When you started looking at LAN engineers and stuff that we're doing now, it wasn't really a skill set then. So yeah, Cisco helped to define that skill set while they also helped to define, a credential that would show those that have memorized the most amount of commands in their operating system. And I think that was a very solid thing that they did. I didn't have to do that at Arista. I had a different requirement. So we looked at this to say, well, what if we built a credential to define what a network engineer looks like? And this is why I think it's a little different that, yep, you need to know BGP. You need to know EVPN. You need to know all the stuff that's fresh and current and out there and companies are using today. But you also need to know some automation. That's not a different track. That should be part of everybody's track because we don't walk into any customers talking to us about data center and BGP that aren't talking to us about automation as well. And oh, by the way, they're also talking about campus and wireless and security. Those can't all be separate individual people. The companies are looking for leads that know a good bit about all that stuff so they can make design decisions that affect everything. And that to me was the bigger goal to try to accomplish. And I think we've done a pretty good job at it. I mean, what would you say, comparatively speaking, is L7 easy? If they get to take it at their house, open book, is it an easy exam?
Let me think. I mean, so it's definitely not easy, but it kind of helps you. So if you'll compare it to Cisco, right, they don't really help you. They or the other exams, right? They try to confuse you, putting all those different requirements and then not telling you directly what to do. That's the most confusing part. Where L7, they give you exactly what you need to do. Like in real life, like, hey, we need to configure the VPN and need to use this and that and make sure that we can ping from the data center 1 to data center 2 and it should work, right? And this is the output. That's the most important. Like this is how it should look like because we know the end result. So it is still challenging, but it kind of helps you not to be confused. That's the most important part because again, taking some other exams where you're just sitting and just trying to reverse engineer your way out. Like, hey, so they're asking me this, so they're asking me A, then it's not B because it's not C because it's not D, and then at the end of the day, the exam turns out to be not the certified networking expert. It ends up being the reverse engineering expert.
Right. Which is dangerous, by the way. As a good best practice, what do you do when you get to production? If you train like you fight, and you fight like you train, and that's how you approach an expert exam, what do you do when you get in production? And that's why I say you start to do things that are dangerous. Like, way I can remember having things that were on mine, and I've never done them. That was 20 plus years ago, and I've never done them. And I've worked for some very large organizations and have never done the tasks that were on that exam. To me, that's crazy because then, as a vendor, we spend most of our time trying to make sure people don't get into corner cases. But if you study your highest profile exam by giving corner cases, then that means your highest qualified engineers are masters of creating corner cases. How is that a good thing for you as a company or as a vendor? Now you got these one-off things that are hard to support. To me, when I look at it, just like my analogy I was giving you earlier, the story I was telling you with BGP, why do I need to make BGP complicated? It's already freaking complicated. It's by far the most complicated protocol in the industry. So why not just let you sit down? And I think this is why we see some really interesting stuff. We see a lot of CCIE types that are coming in to take ours, and they started our level 3 because that's where we introduced EVPN and BGP and VXLAN, and we still got a 40% or so fail rate at level 3. Like, I don't need to make it tricky to make it hard. Is the point, right? It's hard to do it right. And I think that's a lot of what we're doing. And the fact that we put design before we do the practical, I think that also has a lot to do with making sure that people flush out and really know when and why to use the technology. Solve a problem. Don't just type a command. Solve a problem. And that's I had somebody say that to me the other day, not long ago. I think it was on one of these interviews actually. And the guy's like, well, if I compared the program that we developed here versus other programs in the market, he said, I think a lot of the other programs in the market are really, really focused on testing your ability to memorize facts. He said, versus your program is really focused on testing skill sets. And I think that we did a good job with that, Dennis. I really do. I think I can stand behind. I'll put my reputation behind that as if you had to choose between memorizing facts or learning skills, I think the people that pay you salaries are more interested in the skills you learned than the facts you memorized.
Yeah, it can always memorize stuff, and when you're in the school, right?
Well, that's what they're making AI for, is to memorize everything and never forget. All I need to do is know how to get to it. But hey, any parting words? Because we've been on for a minute. I want to let you get back to your day. Like, any parting words for people getting ready to do this? They're listening to this. Hopefully, they're a little motivated and inspired. I mean, you got a great story, Dennis. I mean, you should shout it from the rooftops, dude. Fascinating career. Absolutely fascinating career. Any last little golden nuggets you throw out to people? Just things to do, things not to do.
For me, it's been always study, don't give up, and find your motivation, and then everything else will just come. And it's not just in particular to the Arista, it's just in general. When it comes to the L7 and the others, I would say go and take it, and you will understand. That's it. And then you don't need to fly out anywhere. You just can take it online, right? It's just, yes, it may be a little bit more in terms of the cost, but just go and take it, because I've been always a person who likes to go and do the hands-on first, and then you just, oh, that's how I need to do it, and then you go and take it, and then you'll know what you need to do, or go and take a class, Arista class, right? They're probably also gonna also tell you like what to be aware of and what to be not. But yeah, like the very first advice, like practice.
Yep, I think that's right. I mean, we tell people like no secrets. Everything that's on here is in level 3, 4, and 5. Level 1 and 2, little more basic, so not necessarily going to tie directly to the expert, but all the courses, in other words, there's no hidden material. It's in the courses. The lab time's there. If I give anybody, and I think that's echoing what you just said, get on the lab time, just practice, configure it. You just got to do it. You got to do it.
There's no way around.
Right, just like you said, playing the games. You got to spend the hours if you're going to be good at it, and then I think the rest of it is just sitting down and preparing. I mean, I think we've helped as much as we can. We are, out to the public now. This is going to be a 3-day exam is the way that we're rolling it out. We think that's the fairest on everybody. So it's kind of like 3 Fridays in a row, but those are 8-hour blocks, and there's 3 distinct parts of each of it. So there's a data center, a campus type idea, and then automation. And we do it like that because we also think that's realistic. Never would I hire you as a contractor, say, hey, I want you to redo the data center design. I want you to also go ahead and touch the WAN in the campus and introduce security. And then I'd like you to automate everything. And can you get this all done in one window? Like, that'd be insane.
Yeah.
So, come in, try it. Let's say you do data center, you pass that, you do fine. You get into campus, you fail it. Okay, well, you just got to go back and now focus on campus and redo campus. You don't have to redo the data center any more than in the real world. If you got data center to work and then campus didn't, we wouldn't roll back the data center either. Right? We're trying to keep it very, very realistic, very relevant to everybody.
But makes sense.
Hey man, I really appreciate the time. By the way, here's a little tidbit for you. It's not quite some of the games that you've rattled off, but we are about to launch an SDN Pros Arista training video game.
Interesting.
We've had it. We've had it in works, but we're kind of going a little old school. A little sneak peek on that is think more like Frogger and Space Invaders and Galactica, Pong. We've even got a version of Pong in here. It's kind of cool. So
okay,
we'll have to get you on a sneak peek.
I'll definitely try it.
Yeah. All right, Dennis, I appreciate your time, buddy. And again, appreciate all the help and congrats on being one of our very first L7 experts.
Yay.
Add another one to the list, right?
Yes.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, likewise. See ya.